Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL officially unofficial coverage of the LJL Week 6. That's right, Super Week. I am still your host, Alex, otherwise known as Actually by Master on the internet, joined by the insatiable Hapgood Brother duo of Initialize and Nightmare. Gentlemen, we're going to be seeing DetonatioN FocusMe face off against AXIZ, and last time around, this was a one-sided affair in DFM's favour.
Absolutely. DFM have had a way against AXIZ to just run through top lane, and after a series of misplays from AXIZ, ended up giving a double kill over to Ebby on his set top lane, and as much as set's fallen off of the top lane, Ebby made it look like it was still in its heyday, and the haymakers were hitting hard. He just carried the entire game. AXIZ had nothing to say about it after that point.
That said, it was some mistakes from AXIZ that allowed it to happen. We've kind of been over and forward reviewed it a number of times, and DFM definitely played with fire. It worked out for them, but maybe AXIZ can be hopeful that fire burns DFM a little harder this time.
Well, that fire might be slightly different in its flame, as we have got a slight change in this AXIZ lineup. We've now got day one in the AD carry role, and Unyan is back up in that top lane as Natsume has now been put back onto their support role of temporary sub as that would go forward. So far, they picked up their first win. Things are looking more optimistic for AXIZ now.
And it was a very good win versus Sengoku, who, in my opinion, are the team which are best suited for punching down the standings. They're very formulaic, they do all their homework, and they come out to very rugged wins, which are just very cookie-cutter. They know what they're doing in the game. They were very upset by the tempo of AXIZ. They didn't hold up their vision, and Hoglet in particular really punished the team of Sengoku.
Yeah,
It's also worth pointing out. I'll continue, Lexi.
Oh, no, okay. So, and I mean, part of that was just due to Hoglet having beautiful pathing, realizing that the members aren't respecting what they're doing, and, well, last time we saw Hoglet in the jungle versus DFM, he had very little of an impression on the game. Where do we expect this really to go forward, as this is kind of a new AXIZ facing off against a DFM who is currently 0-5 at the moment? They've got the second largest loss streak now in the region behind AXIZ.
Yeah, and the thing is, this would have been a done and dusted, book closed case 2 weeks ago. AXIZ, however, are coming off looking significantly more coherent. Hoglet has lanes to play around now rather than just the mid lane, which is really nice for him. And on the other side, DFM are looking a little bit lost in terms of game plan. They've tried playing through Ebby. That hasn't worked out all that well. They've tried playing away from Ebby, and Ebby has been inting a little bit under turret. He went 1-7 on Vladimir yesterday versus V3. Maybe I still favour DFM, and it's hard not to.
Obviously.
But that said, this is AXIZ's best shot to bring down DFM, and it would be massive if for keeping the playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, and I mean, keeping that playoff dream alive is going to be partly in the hands of DetonatioN FocusMe, as AXIZ do need to go, well, almost have a perfect run from here to have any stone of throw of a chance. They've got 2 games here, 2 games tomorrow, and with DFM having another opportunity at a lower team at the moment, that'll be the 7th place team of Rascal Jester in next week. It's going to be a difficult one for AXIZ to catch up, but if they can do it, we could be at least seeing a minimum of a tiebreaker match. And what a tiebreaker match that would be. And what a surprise and fall from grace from DetonatioN FocusMe, Nightmare, that would be.
It would be. They still have, of course, in our stream, we haven't covered their earlier game versus Burning Core, I believe. So they with 4 games remaining for, well, no, sorry, only 3, because, so 4 games remaining for both these teams, because AXIZ still have 2 games today. AXIZ need to win all of their remaining games, and DFM only need to win 2 of theirs total to put themselves out of reach, as far as I'm aware. Unless it's going to be a really hard ask.
Well, it's going to be a hard ask. But we're now into Champ Select, so gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you again, Master One, and we are into pick and ban. It will be DetonatioN FocusMe on the blue side, AXIZ on the red. But for DFM, it is Ebby in the top lane, Steel in the jungle, Seros in the mid lane, and then Utapon and Gang are the bot lane duo.
And on the red side, contenders still perhaps for playoffs, sat at 1-9 after picking up their first win versus Sengoku, is AXIZ. In the top lane, once again, is Eunyan, and it's Hoglet in the jungle, Gadiadu in the mid lane, and bot lane is Day One, streamer turned player, and Corporal in support.
Few bans coming through. DFM will take the Galio off the board. It's been a way to kind of keep people safe, and DFM have been a little frustrated by that in recent weeks. Take that off there alongside the Ashe, which Day One was really using well yesterday.
I think you're hoping that Day One's a one trick, try and force about on something a little less comfortable.
Yes, on the other side though, the Aphelios banned away. Utapon has been a fantastic Aphelios player. The Karma as well will be taken away. DFM did get it earlier today, went to Seros, played fine, wasn't enough because things fell apart elsewhere. But for now, we are seeing other bans starting to come in, and I've got to think about where else they want to focus. I wonder whether another ban towards Day One might make some sense here.
I think that importantly for AXIZ side of things, Set and Callista are still available. You can only ban one of them. The TF is going to be banned away from Gadiadu. It is the highest presence mid laner across the world. It has a strong laning phase into that global presence, which is very, very strong. Syndra also available, so there are multiple flex/power picks available to the side of DFM on this first pick. I would quite like to see the Callista taken away from Utapon. Instead, it's going to be the Heimerdinger away from Seros, his old comfort champion, potentially opening up something a bit more in that mid lane. With that all said and done, Set is locked in, that quintuple flex, as we've said.
And we know a number of people on DFM play that very, very well. Of course, Ebby is the most famous, but Steel does play it in the jungle, even if it's not been to a fantastic amount of success. And we know the likes of Gang is probably more than willing to pick that up. Now, for AXIZ, they've got to make some responses. You can sort of see 37% pick rate, 46% ban rate, and a 65% win rate for the boss himself. AXIZ will respond with the Zoe, which Gariaru is a very prolific player of.
And Seros has always been this guy that really doesn't play LeBlanc and Zoe. He doesn't play these pseudo-assassin champions in the mid lane. He plays Echo, that's the closest he gets to it. But often we have seen DFM turn away from these picks in the past and not really have a great way of dealing with them. They're now going to play against Gadiadu, Zoe, has been very potent in the past, and also Hoglet's Volibear, which is, of course, the pick which AXIZ used to snowball the game versus Sengoku.
And Hoglet, as we said, has been finding a lot of success on that Volibear. It's probably the champion he looked best on, even when they were kind of in a rough spot. Volibear's win rate doesn't flatter the champion right now, but remember, a lot of lower teams have been picking it up, and that always tilts the standings to a certain amount. Utapon will get his Ezreal though, and even if it's not been looking as fantastic as the win rate for DFM, Utapon's Ezreal has still been a force to be reckoned with. I doubt it's a Teemo lock-in, but one can hope. Looking for those spirit bonds, we're all hunting for them. Papaya Dreaming out there has already been lambasted on the LEC cast for his Teemo love. Instead, though, it will be Graves. Locked in for Steel. First time this split. I've missed Steel on things like this.
But yes, he's often been relegated towards Trundle duty. This could be a Syndra lock-in for bot lane. They were hovering it. I was thinking, what actually deals with Ezreal okay? Xayah, not so great. Actually, Callista gets outranged as well in the Ice Gauntlet. That's not very good. However, the Kai'Sa has been coming back as somewhat of a long-range ADC counter. You hit that W, you follow up with the CC from someone like the Volibear, you dive in, and once you have that Mirror Mana transformation, you can win that 1v1 versus Ezreal pretty easily sometimes.
Well, DFM are going to hope that Gang's D finger pressing is the fastest in the East, never mind the West, because he'll need to hit that exhaust pretty damn fast if the Kai'Sa is coming in. Okay, so we're seeing the Xerath banned out against Seros. He does love that pick into Zoe. Worked super well in the finals. I believe it was the finals. Might have been the semis, actually. One of the playoff matches.
Versus V3's
versus V3.
And then they played it in their first match versus Sengoku against Pyrians, sorry, and it didn't work out very well.
It was well played by Pyrian and Blank to kind of prevent the pressure that Seros was looking for in there. Some good lane management there from Pyrian, but either way, Seros won't get the chance to pull it out here. Ornn banned out by DFM. Great way to offer plasma stacks for Kai'Sa, if nothing else.
Because
the rest of the bans are.
For sure. So now you're thinking, okay, Nautilus is typically the Kai'Sa go-to lane partner. Also something like the Leona could come out, or the Thresh. Ziggs is being banned away from Saros as well.
Quite bad against Saros.
Well, you know that his champion pool has been stretched in the past. Maybe they're trying to force him to go onto the Syndra or something like that.
Azir is up there too. He does play a good Azir.
He does, but also playing that stuff into Volibear and Zoe and the Kai'Sa, it can be... If AXIZ ever get a free time to roam up mid with their duo lane, any CC lands and that guy just dies. It's free.
Yeah, Uenyan's Cannon will banned away as well. He's played that a couple of times, looked pretty damn good on it. So we'll see what they go towards here. And that is, you're right, is a lot of mid lane bans. Galio, TF, Ziggs, Zerath, Heimerdinger, Karma, like that's a lot focused towards that way. And it's looking like that Kai'Sa may well be paired up with the Thresh. Not the Nautilus that I know you're a huge fan of with Kai'Sa.
I think it's a takeaway from DFM because that set doesn't necessarily have to go towards support, can go towards mid or top lane. Still probably going to be towards top lane at this point, but also the support option available.
I wondered.
Okay. Mid lane AP Cogmore has come out, is versus the Zoe. It outranges the Zoe in a lot of ways, but however, if you ever get hit by a sleep, you end up blowing that cleanse or dying. Abby's Wukong's returned. It's going to be up there in the top lane. We haven't been impressed with it before. Yeah. And AXIZ will be left to play against it.
Emby has been grinding for Wukong in solo queue, and from like a 48% win rate and a 1 point something KDA, he has gone up to about a 55% and near enough 3 KDA. So you can see like it's taken time, but it sounds like at least in terms of solo queue, Emby's been finding a little bit more success on it. The response is the counter of Malphite.
Well, this is huge, right? This Cogmore wants to maintain range and just keep firing away. Malphite forces the issue. Kai'Sa jumps on top of you. Volibear's going to be running into. This Cogmore's not going to be safe. Ever. No. You don't have the Thresh lantern yourself. Imagine if there was a Thresh for DFM. You could keep that set the top lane, and then the Thresh could be bot lane, you can start repositioning. And also, Malphite counters the Wukong in a lot of ways, because you can build up towards Ninja Tabi into Bramble Vest, works for a double AD top side, because of course the Graves is there too, and it'll work against Set and Ezreal in the team fights too. You build up so much armor, max W, Wukong cannot pressure lane, and if you're talking about Wukong being this team fighting champion, well, that's where Malphite thrives as well. You're looking for these huge ults onto the not the Ziggs, I keep trying to say the Ziggs is banned, the Cogmore. And I really like what AXIZ did with that last pick. I think it completely rounds out that draft. It's also another enabler for Kai'Sa. I really like it.
It's really good stuff. Of course, they have got to make sure they catch all the carries. If you only get one and then the Ezreal and the Graves stay alive, or catch the Graves and the Cogmore and the Ezreal stay alive, could still end up being a little risky. And of course, if the Wukong can find his way onto Zoe, Zoe can have a bit of a bad time. That said, we have just had the Wombo combo in the team fight with Volibear and Malphite diving in, allowing Kai'Sa to dive forward with the Killer Instinct. Zoe nuking from the backline could absolutely make particularly the Cogmore's life an absolute living hell. Saros is going to have to play very well to stay alive here, and even if he does play well, he might not get much of an option.
I think the Zoe is the kind of thing, kind of the one pick was a little bit off theme. I would have preferred something like Cassandra, I think, but even then, that's a little bit countered by the Cogmore in some ways, although the Cogmore in early lane really suffers. The Zoe does have that one-shot potential, and particularly around objectives. If you land that sleep, if you have the sleep going into the Malphite ult, into everything else, that is just utter death for whoever is hit by that one piece of CC. Once again, we have one of these games where it often comes down to this with DFM and the way that they play the game. DFM love their zoning, and the Cogmore helps with that, but they will be out-zoned by this comp of AXIZ. They have this dual problem of they want to get the objective first so they can zone out, and then potentially invite the engage from Malphite, or they are zoned out of the objective and potentially re-engaged onto by someone like the Kai'Sa when they're split across the map.
So we'll have to see how it plays out. We love the Malphite last pick.
Love it. Yep.
We're all on board with that. That said, we've also mentioned that there is a lot of carry threat from DFM, and if enough people get fed enough, or it stays even enough and not everybody dies in the Wombo combo, any one of Ezreal, Cogmore, and Graves can run over the back end of a team fight.
Potentially. I also really like... So, one of the big questions which some people have is, why not the Nautilus, why the Thresh? As I said, it is partly a takeaway, but I do think the Thresh, now that the Malphite is locked in, is slightly better. Because you still have the Lantern to reposition someone like Zoe, who doesn't have that ability to follow up like the rest of the team. And you can potentially Lantern her into the fight, or Lantern her out of the fight if she does need to step up a bit further to land that paddle star damage. You already have the dedicated engaged CC of Malphite and Volibear too, so you don't necessarily need that point-and-click Malphite ultimate. Nautilus Ultimate, that's the one we're talking about. Thrasher right now. And of course, you also have a better laning matchup in someone like into Set because you can flay him away from the fight. You could flay the Wukong out of the fight too if that comes into it. We saw it from Reiner against.
Ebby remembers in his worst nightmares the flays that kept him out on the Wukong the last time out.
Sure. So I really like this Thresh, and Corporal has been mechanically very proficient on this pick. I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I like AXIZ's draft. Obviously, DFM have ways into this game. If Cogmore scales up into the late game and can just keep hitting on that Zoe becomes a non-factor. So I'm looking to see whether DFM can abuse this Zoe with the Cogmore. I think it does work into that pick, whilst also keeping their backline safe and allowing Ezreal to fight on 2 items before the game's kind of 2 over in the team fight.
And these are some interesting stats. We said that DFM have actually been pretty damn good early. Look at those dragon stats. They've always been good at getting the dragons early. Look at the vision score per minute. Look at the gold difference. That's pretty good stats, but they have been unable to convert. And you know what's really telling on there for me? 6th place on the Rift Herald stat, and it's been the Rift Herald fights that have been absolutely abysmal for DFM.
Go check out the head-to-head stats of Sengoku versus DFM. It'll tell you a lot about what happens when DFM do play quite a regimented team in terms of their objective taking. DFM often get their first dragon, so that's cool. But like, if you're losing first tower almost every game, and the heralds which go with that, and the amount of plates which go with that, it means that your mid game is much less of an assured thing. Even if you do have those early dragons, you end up losing that gold advantage and the fights which come after it. So what I'm looking for is for DFM to have a bit more of a rounded game this time. Don't just give up on the herald. Try and rotate up with your Ezreal. Has the teleport, importantly, too. When it comes to that 8-minute thing, Yutapon can stick in the bot lane, try and farm up. But the last time we saw that Yutapon teleport into a fight as an Ezreal would have been versus CGA, actually, and that turned out very badly. There are precedents which have been set for DFM and how they play around these objectives. They need to step up.
Phase rush in for Cogmore. I think that's probably quite sensible to try and keep alive.
Nope, that's the common thing on AP Cogmore nowadays, because particularly in early levels, if you EQ ult or EQ auto, you just get that phase rush and you run away. Cogmore really has no escapes built into his kit. The E can help in terms of that slow.
The escape of death, that's what's built into his kit.
Yeah, that's the one. And the E, as you rank that up first, has a higher slow as it gets into higher ranks. Means you do have some ability to peel for yourself. With 3 phase rushes on DFM, they're going to be a very speedy team.
They very much will be. We're looking here at anything else in that's a bit unusual. Not especially. It's a lot of phase rush for DFM. It's worth pointing out.
Lethal tempo for Ezreal's the one strange.
Yeah, and of course it's grasp for the Malphite and spellbook for Zoe. Of course, over anything like an electrocute or comet has gone towards that spellbook, which is not unusual.
It allows you to go towards teleport, while also getting something like a heal or ignite later into the game. Having more summoners gives you a lot of stuff to work with when you're you have that W anyway. As Zoe, which is one of the most fun abilities in the game. So he's looking to really make use of those summoners, try and get some kind of X factor play with those summoner spells, trying to put some pressure on Saros.
Yes! Well, that's the AXIZ fan group and a lot of very angry Detonation FocusMe fans, I can tell you.
Did someone say Cinderella story?
The Cinderella story's alive, and the unicorns of the ocean looking to force as much trouble as they can. Gang and Corporal find a lot of trouble. That's a face breaker that's causing a lot of danger. Corporal has to flash out, and Yutapon can't quite find that last shot, but danger in the bot side already.
Danger in the bot side. He tanks up all of that damage before flaying away and getting
flash face breaker. Day 1's in trouble, but that's the level 2 that came up at the perfect moment. My days, that got close.
Wonderful level 2 level up with the Lantern. It saves that laning phase for AXIZ. Blows the flash from Gang for actually not very much HP traded. Corporal traded his flash for Gang's Ignite. Now the flash is gone too. He has pots anyway. It's not actually looking as bad as it might seem for AXIZ.
Not anymore. I appreciate the aggressive play. I appreciate the fact you hit level 2 and you want to punish, but that was about as clutch a Lantern level up as you could possibly get.
That was huge. Absolutely huge. Made no mistake on that. Junglers are yet to get involved in the map. That'll be the next thing we see. It will be Corporal going back, buys himself an extra couple of pots, and getting himself Gang misses out on that cannon, unfortunately, there on the Haymaker. Just missing out on the hitbox. Getting himself some wards, getting himself some pots as well. Just getting back to lane and making sure that he doesn't completely capitulate early.
Yeah, I can see that being kind of important.
Yep.
It's still not looking fantastic in terms of the CS right now. Of course, there's a wave.
It's a double wave getting stacked in. It'll be like another 8 CS coming in. It'll be like a 5 CS lead for the Ezreal, but it's not going to be like 10, 12.
And Steel's going to roam over here for this bot side. Skullcrab has cleared out everything but his Raptors thus far, wanting to be around. That
misses the pink ward, though.
Does miss the pink ward. That particular pink ward isn't often caught on that Scryer's Bloom.
A ward in top lane will spot out Hoglet. Ebby's pushing in there, but doesn't really have much of a CS advantage because can't really stop Malphite from doing his thing. He's just gonna Rock Boy gonna do rock things.
Yeah, throws out some seismic shards and pick up some CS and max your W. That's the flat Haymaker. Oh, sorry, the Hex flash in alongside the Haymaker for a big trade onto day one, who's going to feel really sad about his health bar after that trade.
Corporal not quite getting the Lantern Shield there. Does lose out about 50 health for day one, which is kind of nasty. Ends up blowing his pot. Hex flash on set being really, really annoying. It is going up to that CS advantage to Ezreal even more, but at least they've not died yet. That's the bonus, right?
And this is Ezreal before backs. You know, there are no item discrepancies, which item can find himself in that frustrate him using the early pressure.
But we have seen Ezreal's go towards early Sheens before to keep up the lane pressure. Against Kai'Sa just goes straight towards that Minimune. So if you go towards the tier and then Kai'Sa goes towards that as well, I think Kai'Sa is very much in the advantage in terms of damage, just because her passive does so much work.
Yeah, the Plasma does a lot of work. That's Redemption picked up. That's super sad. Seros cleanses, and he feels like, well, my minion wave was there, now it's not.
Zoe is a fun champion!
And he's like, he had that happen versus Piri and Zoe too, the last time where it was Redemption, GLP, Redemption that lost him lane. Utterly insane RNG.
You're going to see what Ebby's doing against the Malphite. He's got the wave stacked up against him, but, you know, if you just press W and you bonk him, it's so much damage if you max that out.
Yeah, and
he's not even gone for a single point in Q. He knows he doesn't need it. He just bonks him with the autos.
and this is the thing. Wukong does not like playing into Malphite in lane, and Wukong in general is not the greatest laner. He needs probably a completed item before he's truly terrifying. Hoglet has found his way into the tribe.
He was pinged out by DFM. I think they know he's there, but they're not walking up right now.
Well, the Utapon will go over the wall with the Arcane Shift.
It's a couple of hundred HP away from the Ezreal. Potentially what that means is if he's staying in lane... I mean, he's got pots. He's got pots and biscuits. It really means nothing. Yeah.
Just trying to wait out. That's the face breaker onto Corp. Remember, no flash there. The Flay comes in. The exhaust comes down. Hoglet's still there, but Steel is fighting in the river. That's first blood now onto Gang. Steel stepping forward has got a... bear hunting shotgun available, and Hoglet needs to run real damn fast. Flash out will save Hoglet's life, but there was no way he could get involved in that gang.
Gang is just taking over this lane on the set. Ebby not doing so well on the top side, but the first kill going over towards set, unfortunately not going over towards the Ezreal, is a bit of a warning side for AXIZ. They do want this guy to get to a point of power. Oh, he does get hit by the snake.
It's so sad. Does manage to get under turret at least. He's like, I've surely got enough room to hit here in the wall, but because when the bubble comes down, it's no chance. Putting pressure onto this cog more early. Good work for AXIZ. That's something nice to see. But the bot lane is in dire straits.
Also, good play by Steel there to zone off Hoglet at the same time. So he's on a ward. They know what's happening here. They know that Steel's coming down. Corporal, yeah, he's just not in the right place again. The heal doesn't even come out early enough to stop the Ignite coming through, which is off cooldown. Means that the extra HP is not there. Hoglet is not available for this fight either, because Steel is dealing with the bear problem. Trades flash for flash. Didn't actually need to blow his own flash, but that's what happens anyway.
They thought it was going to be fine. They had, that's an unfortunate freeze.
Yeah, it is. And the big thing here is Unya's not even gone for Buy Me Cinder, so he can freeze. He's gone for Bramblevest first. He's really winning this 1v1 lane matchup. And the Bramblevest is important versus 4 out of the 5 members on DFM. Because all of them want to be able to auto-attacking him at some point, really.
You can see Ebby managed to hit level 6 first early, but he was at 1/3 HP, and Unya was very close to 6.
That's the thing, that's the one time you can win the Malphite Wukong matchup is if you get that early level 6 and you just use the Cyclones to just all in someone.
And Ebby's Ebby's having a rough time there. Like, he doesn't get the Cyclone, can't use a Cyclone, had too low HP, afraid of the turnaround from the Unstoppable Force. I apologise. Onslaught would be a very different ability. Yep. And we kind of see that offering AXIZ something of a stopping the gold leaf from ballooning super hard.
It's only 300 gold. It's fine. There's one dragon the way of DFM, and having a Cloud Dragon does give you nice ultimate stats. That will particularly help for Wukong, who will be using it in a great number of situations. But it's not the biggest thing ever because Seros is really taking a lot of pressure in this lane. The thing about this Kog'Maw pick is that you really want to get to about level 11 with your Seraphs, and at that point you really start ready to fight around things. But when you're sat on a tier like you are right now, you're not in a good position to fight. Unya's starting to play goalkeeper onto the DFM lineup, and this will probably mean no Herald contest. We talked about how DFM, they had the teleport on the Ezreal. He's still saved bot lane. He doesn't have the teleport himself. They've shifted Kai'Sa up for this objective too. Malphite's going to go back. It's going to be a free objective over to AXIZ, and potentially some plates going along with it.
And you can sort of see with the Malphite at a very strong point, Wukong not quite there, no teleport on Utapon, that it's just not worth it for DFM to contest, which has sometimes been a problem with them where they want to contest every objective and then lose themselves some trouble. That said, it will be a plate over to Ezreal, but not the second plate, and that's always been kind of the break
Second
point.
plate, and it looks like Malphite's going to get back in time for most of this wave. It's a cannon wave coming in, so he will lose one melee minion, and I think he'll be able to get back in time for the cannon, particularly the way Utapon is pushing it. It looks like it could be a dive onto Ebby, but he has flash. He's stayed on his turret for quite a long time.
He's got clone. He'll have to use it pretty well.
He stayed.
He has stayed, but there's the Cyclone looking to try and turn around. There's a second Cyclone. They've gone onto the clone, though. And actually, Hoglet has to back away, and Gang is here now. They're flashing in, but that's a decent showstopper. They're trying to turn it around. It's all gone wrong. Double for Ebby. It might be a triple. Steel gets it, and this time, DFM play the dive so well. Double for Steel, double for Ebby, and AXIZ in shambles at the top side of the map.
No, I'm going to throw this completely the other way. This is exactly what happened in the last AXIZ DFM game. AXIZ outplay themselves on a dive, which didn't need to happen, and they give over 2 kills over to the Wukong in a position where he was not going to be winning against the Malphite. He was going to be having a load of problems. Let's have a look at how this works. Right, so you know that a number of people are roaming up from DFM. They don't disable the turret first with the available their ultimate. And what that means is that Hoglet takes like a free 2 turret shots. Gary Arrow flashes forwards, and then that's already bought enough time for DFM to get back up there. You don't finish the dive early enough, you just back off. And what happens here, you've burned the Wukong ult, burned the flash, you just get away with that. Instead, they stay, they die, they lose their advantage.
And
I'm sorry, this is another time where AXIZ are outplaying themselves.
Yeah, and again, it's always difficult to dive a Wukong with invisibility, with double Cyclone on all his mobility. He can absolutely outplay you, especially when he's got support coming.
If you dodge the first part of the Cyclone as Volibear with your ultimate and also deny that turret, that's fine. That's okay. That's how you end up winning that play. Because the Volibear has to put down all of his DPS and is not interrupted, and he has his own flash to follow as well. The Kai'Sa can then follow up at his own point, but that is just a very ill-advised, ill-executed dive from AXIZ, although it was, of course, well played from Ebby to force that mistake. It's not necessarily an unforced error, but it does have a lot of hallmarks of the same kind of play.
Yeah. It was always going to be a risk taking that dive, and DFM knew what they were doing, had people roaming up in time, and outplay it a little bit. But it was good stuff from them, and AXIZ just overstepping.
The thing is, like, as soon as you get the Wukong ult and the flash, you just get away.
He might be in trouble here, no, but he's managed to get out. But there is the use of the redemption. The teleport's coming in. Actually, DFM want to look for it. There is the showstopper again, and a massive face breaker. And here comes the volatile bombs from that particular Cogmore. Bioarcane Barrage doing a lot of work at the end of that to pick up a second kill.
Gang is taking over this game on the set while all things are said and done in the top lane. Gang was the one to respond to that and also there to respond to this other mid lane play as well. It's going to be Unyan left alone on the top lane. He's not really been a factor so far. Gang now caught out though. This is dangerous.
He's the same level as Hoglet, and he's got Facebreaker and Haymaker. He's going to try and pull people in. He'll be able to Haymaker at the end of this for some more shield, but now Gang is in a bit of bother. Hoglet taken very low, but that's Phase Rush that's so damn fast. And now in the bot side, Day One is left alone. Steel stepping forwards, won't quite find the Q he was looking for. Tree-Shot Barrage misses, but the auto is unavoidable, and they do get the kill.
They do manage to kill Set on the top side though, and they're still fighting. Oh, Ebby's been caught now as well.
He has been caught. There is the Rift Herald. Someone Ebby tried to play the clone game, and DFM overstepped that one.
You have been caught, and for you, the chase is over. Plate still available on Herald some top side. It will be first tower, it looks like, for AXIZ, all things said and done, trying to get themselves something from a very disadvantageous scenario.
Yeah, okay, so that will even up the gold a certain amount. It is currently 3,000 in favor of DFM. Utapon will shove in the bot side, but it's going to be at least first tower over to AXIZ, and that's good news. It's going on to the Malphite, which is okay.
I like it in this kind of situation, because Malphite, if he ends up becoming strong enough, he'll be able to zone off the entire backline alone. He will get to the point where he does have, it looks like he's going towards Sunrise's Glory? I'm actually not sure. He's got the HP building up. He has himself that CDR from the Glacial Shroud, might be building up towards the Balmy Cinder, but he will be able to get onto the backline and stick onto them, potentially winning out a lot of these 1vx fights as that Malphite with the extra gold injection.
Yes, that is one way of hoping for AXIZ right now. They've got to try and hope the Malphite with that tankiness can survive, but we'll watch this replay again to see how
this is what happens. Ebby, we saw that Ebby had that 2-kill lead. Look how much damage he's doing to Unyan right now. It does basically nothing. He ends up going straight into Gang, ignoring the Facebreaker with his ultimate at least, and getting that CC and damage down. Ebby, however, turns right around to the Hoglet, and you can see what happens when you're dealing damage against someone who's not that Malphite. Gauriaru shows all the skill that you need to finish off low health targets as Zoe with her passive, amongst other things. Gets the kill regardless either way. Ebby had already used his clone. Corporal's roamed up in time and gets the kill there too. It is a 2-for-1 across the map because unfortunately the Kai'Sa did die on the other side. Now 0 and 2 is DayOne, really not liking his position in this game.
Bubble misses. Seros now stepping forwards. Gets that beautiful trade back. And Cogmore's beginning to get to the point where he's starting to hurt as well.
Just a little bit. Of course, he does more damage on the execute rather than the full health trade,
Yes.
so that's really not an indicator of how much he'll be doing at the back end of team fights. Gauriaru missing out on all of his skill shots there, very unfortunately, but will be still putting down the hurt with the bubbles as he was still earlier in this game. Ebby's stuck under turret, does have himself flash, does have himself ult, but he has been hooked.
He has been hooked. There's Hoglet, but Gang is around as well, and we've seen Ebby and Gang already throwing some decent work out. Bubble misses again. Steel is around the mid lane as well. Gauriaru, though, switching out those spellbook summoners because you know what Zoe needs on top of her W? More bloody summoners.
More summoners, yes. All of them. It's it ain't buy one, get one free. It says get all of them free. Play gold actually relatively even across the board. That's pretty okay. It means that AXIZ are not just completely capitulating the early game. DayOne has got himself a double pickaxe build, got himself the early Q wave clear, meaning that he will have a lot of pressure across the map. Gang's now been caught out. He's alone here.
He is alone, but there's the showstopper. He's going to have the face breaker as well. There it is. The ignite comes down. And he will get the phase rush out. Ignite is blown though.
Ignite's blown, his ult's blown, but it is for the dual ults of the Kai'Sa and the Volibear. Importantly, that Kai'Sa won't be able to follow up into the next couple of fights. That's the really big thing, right? Won't be able to pick off the next person who's walking out of nowhere, but still, without those ultimates around, with that ultimate round from Gang in particular, a lot of their team fight is not looking so good.
That bot lane lead is pretty nasty from Udapon right now.
Particularly when both of them are going towards the same items, and they're time-dependent items in the Manamune. This is probably going to be like a 5-6 minute discrepancy between the Muramana transformations of DayOne and Udapon, and that's going to be very, very important, because that's when Kai'Sa really turns online.
Yes, and 2 Drakes have gone the way of DFM. They get the second Herald as well. And we said they've not been great at getting Heralds. That one was significantly cleaner. And Steel on this Graves as well has been pathing pretty well. Got himself up to that early CS lead. That's kind of a Graves thing. Though we've seen Volibear's largely pretty good at staying up with the farming junglers in general.
On the whole, but also Hoglet's been called across the map quite a lot. And of course died that one time in the top river, which is relatively unfortunate. And had to blow his flash in that 1v1 on the bot side when things started going wrong at the very first hurdle in that bot lane for AXIZ. Feeling a bit bad for Gunyan right now, because actually he's done very well in the 1v1. He's had a matchup, and he's been surviving regardless. He's been
other people coming to his lane and losing it for him.
Pretty much at that point. DayOne, on the other hand, sat alone under turret again.
2 levels down.
Corporal's decided, no, Gauriaru is my carry now. That's where I'm going. And DayOne has really not found a way to farm safely in this game so far.
Infernal Drake will be up in a minute. DFM will take this opportunity to get some pressure.
Yeah, the Infernal
will shove
nasty.
in the top wave all the way to the tier 2. But with Ebby now going up to try and defend this, Moonimon might get a chance to get this. He's got Sheen, but I don't think he's quite got enough away. Probably, maybe. Nah,
next wave, but that's a way off right now.
Yeah, it's a low health tower. I overestimated the Malphite damage, even with the Sheen.
Yeah, it's not quite. I mean, AP Malphite's alright because as soon as you get like a load of AP, your auto attack start doing a lot on towers, and you can auto attack reset with your W. It's like you're not the worst split pusher ever, whereas Tank Malphite really doesn't do much damage to standing structures. He's gonna walk his way back down towards the spawning Infernal Dragon. Gauriaru, though, has been taken relatively low.
Seros needs to be careful. There is a Malphite off to the side. Corporal coming forwards. And that last bioarc embrace not quite enough. Seros needs to be super careful. There it is. They're going to try and jump on him. And that's a cleanse. He flashes out. He's got the Seraphs as well. Now trying to survive the True Shot barrage. Ooh, forces to flash from Gauriaru. Double summoners from Seros. Summoner from Gauriaru.
But Gauriaru has the teleport, importantly, and the dragon has just spawned. Steel didn't land that Graves ultimate onto Zoe at the very end of it. This could be a numbers advantage now for AXIZ over it, and Seros is back in base. Herald's been summoned mid, though. That'll be one of the big game changers.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to have a chance to stop this Herald charge. It's going to come straight through, not interrupted. That will be tower in the mid lane down. And, oh, not quite. No, there it is. They zoom out and show us that. The Infernal Drake started by AXIZ.
Ebby's looking for a TP.
There is a level advantage. The teleport coming through. There is no way to interrupt it. Remember, Ebby has got the Cyclone Gang very, very low. But Ebby now looking to flay used early. DFM now looking to secure the Drake. Owen Yang coming forwards. That is the showstopper to take away Hoglet. And Graves will secure it. Sets there. Seros is there with mana. And the execute damage is beginning to come through. That was a use of Corporal to blast plant his team to safety. Now he flashes out, but the Flash Cyclone will secure a kill at the end of it too.
2-for-1. Gang goes down, but of course Seros is starting to fire out the artillery. He does have the Seraphs. He does have level 11. That execute damage is getting pretty gnarly now. It was a good use of the showstopper for Gang to suppress Hoglet, meaning that he can't smite when he's in flight there, meaning that the smite does go the way of DFM. They're at soul point. They have the goal advantage, and of course without the Malphite ult available for that fight, there wasn't really a way they were going to lose that fight.
See the replay again, and keep an eye on how this one goes. The teleport from Ebby in the backline started the warning bells for AXIZ.
It's a really good wall position, and you know that AXIZ basically have to walk away as soon as they see that. Hoglet tries to get the stun onto him, but Ebby walks out of vision. He's walking back in, hoping that DFM get that just a little bit lower, but they don't manage to get it there in time. Hoglet flashes out, but as soon as Cogmore starts firing, he's going to start getting a lot of that damage, and he does hit him midair from the blast plant. Corporal tries to flash away, trades it for Ebby's flash, but unfortunately, Corporal, of course, it goes down as well.
2-for-1, and the Infernal Drake DFM now up to Infernal Soul point. Looking a lot better here, our DFM, after a series of miserable games this weekend.
For sure, and the caveat for me will be is that a lot of this has come from the fact that DFM are they're playing it well, and you know they're doing some things which have been hard to answer from AXIZ. That last Dragon play was very well played from them, but they've been put into this position because AXIZ did misplay in their strong side of the map. They lost a top side, strong side dive when they had a Herald available for them. 4-for-0 dive for DFM, and that's just turned the story of this game so much. AXIZ aren't out of it yet, but it's looking very rough for them. It's going to be at a point now they have to face a very probable Infernal Soul, unless they have a huge teamfight play, and they don't have an AD carry that can really start carrying until a number of minutes later into this game.
Yeah, Kaiser's a long way off. Ezreal is not. That is 2 items and the Muramana transformation complete to a non-transform Manamune and a pickaxe. That's sad news. That is a level down.
Yeah,
that is
Ezreal at 2 item spike is the
nasty.
strongest champion in the game, and Kaiser is decidedly not right now. Needs to get towards the Rage Blade. Once she gets her 2 items, can actually assassinate the Ezreal, but that's not the problem. The Ezreal will be dealing a lot of damage to the Volibear, Thresh, and of course Zoe as well. And if you manage to land enough Qs onto them, the fight's pretty much over. You know, the AXIZ already need to find themselves a very choice engage to really win out in a lot of these team fights. It's just getting much, much harder because Ezreal can just run over the fight on his own now.
There is still room for the wombo combo. If they can hold on Garriado with the Medjais from behind, makes a lot of sense. That's a good bubble onto Utapon, but of course Arcane Shift will keep him safe.
Speaking of the Zoe and the bubble and stuff, picked up a Medjais. That's a really important thing.
Yeah.
All 3 kills are onto Garriado right now. Hoglet takes damage because, of course, Ezreal is the strongest champion in the game. And that's what happens. 2 item spike, really powerful.
Yeah. Smites there to prevent the True Shot Barrage murdering him.
Steals away the Krog because why not?
Why not? And this is it as well, because like I am beginning to agree with the likes of LS, of Ender, who basically look, taking Medjais from behind is often a really good buy because it's 1,000 gold, and if you get a couple kills in a team fight, you can come back in.
2 kills and assist gets you 10 stacks, and that is where you get your gold efficiency from that item, and also the movement speed increase. Yutupon's wailing on Yoanyan, but you can see what happens. This Malphite, having the Tabby, having Iceborne Gauntlet, having Bramble Vest,
danger for DFM.
Baron's been started, but I don't think you can do it with Malphite being this strong in the game right now.
Yeah, you're trying to just buy out some teleports and some space. Can't quite do it, and grouping up in the Baron pit would be
unwise.
I think
the way you lose is a huge Malphite ult while you're tanking up Baron, and also Kai'Sa gets to fly in and just use that empowered Q onto the single target, which does end up ending that fight. If Volibear and Zoe get wrap their damage on top, it's probably still a team fight win for AXIZ, even though they are 4k in the deficit. With 1 minute left to Infernal, I don't think they wanted to blow too many ultimates. They didn't want to blow too many resources trying to bait out Baron when that dragon is probably going to be the hallmark of this game. That will be the turning point if AXIZ do steal it. Potentially they're still a way into this game.
Onyan will finally return to the scene of the crime and get that top lane tier 2. Malphite is kind of able to ignore Wukong in the side lane, and Nebby's still like, please leave my
this is why Malphite is picked against Wukong. You've got a 30 CS lead. That's going pretty well for you. You're going to be very good in these team fights. Hoglet looking to see if he can find anything around the pit. Galliadu just also present as well, and it looks like Onyan will not have to blow teleport, push that wave fully in on the top side. It's gonna be a long time before Ebby really gets
sat on a pink wall, by the way. It's next to you, buddy.
Oh.
Okay.
Most interesting.
That was BM play. That's what we call it.
I'm surprised none of his team pinged that out, actually. Anyway,
cool question mark pings abound from the cast here. We've got the Infernal Drake up in 3 seconds, and for now it looks like AXIZ have river control. DFM are going to try coming in, but they're going to rush
Dragon
it.
quickly.
Here's a teleport.
Teleporting in from Ebby.
Might be too late.
This is going to come to a fight.
It's going to be too late. It's already gone. Now it's going to try and be the fight, but AXIZ trying to retreat. They get out. They get the Inferno Drake, and DFM too late.
This is definitely going to come to a fight, says man, who knows that it's not going to come to a fight, I guess. They managed to get in, take the dragon, and as much as we were bigging this up for the last couple of minutes, it's ended up in not very much. That's important. This allows Kai'Sa to catch up a little bit. Maybe get to the Muramana transformation on her own. Already some levels down onto Youthpon, who's at level 12 to level 11. Potentially, this is how AXIZ can stall out the game. Get to a point where Malphite becomes ungodly tanky as well. And maybe they can start catching up with some of the points of power of DFM.
Maybe they can, but there's always this risk now. You need the ultimate wombo combo, because otherwise there are a Graves at 204 with 2 items complete. You've got an Ezreal at 2.5 items, a Cogmore at the Seras, the Oblivion Orb, and working towards the Liandry's as well. Like, if you don't catch all of them, the fight still ends up looking pretty bad, because Gang and Wukong will buy time for them to start firing at you.
They will do. I think Day One just got his E upgrade.
Yes.
Don't quiz me on that. I think
so.
you sometimes need the full recurve bow rather than just the daggers, but he might just have that now. That's important. Looks like there could be a fight, although everyone gets over the Baron pit. Tank it up for a little bit. Some red buff steal complete.
That is, and Unyan will now move towards the bot lane. He's got teleport advantage.
This is a win condition they can play towards, right? Because you can't really do much against. Even if you go with 4 people, you don't kill him. You maybe get his ult at that point. I think that Unyan is very happy to be split pushing in the sidelines. I mean, so there's a Death Dance on Ebby now, so maybe he can try and take maybe some of... Ooh, okay, gets away with the red buff steal there as well. Hoglet now taking a lot of damage from Youthpon.
Has to ult really, really early there, because...
Yeah, no, Ebby doesn't win this 1v1. Yeah, okay, so you might go for it. It ain't gonna work, though.
But Unyan's not going to find his way out, because Gang's coming down. It's pretty damn fast.
He doesn't care. But he doesn't care, DFM.
Gang's still going to keep looking to try and zone him away. And that is a potential problem for DFM, because his Wukong, while he's looking great in the team fights, just doesn't have anything in his kit to deal with.
Unyan can build full armor in this game and be very happy with it, because it's not going to be Seras answering the sidelines. As long as he is ulting that Cogmore in the team fights, he doesn't need to care about that magic damage. He has himself a full Sunfire kit, full Iceborne Gauntlet. He can tank up towers now with like 200 odd armor, even more than that, and be very happy with the situation. This Wukong cannot do anything about the Malphite.
No. And we've dropped from 92% to 89% here.
Yeah, 3% drop. Nice. Cool. They're doing it.
There they are for now. I mean, there's still room
I call that the Malphite drop. It's like a cliff.
Well, they're going to have to hope about the Malphite. Unyan is definitely something of a thorn in DFM side, or at least like a pebble in the boot, perhaps, would be a more appropriate analogy. Now, Unyan finding his way onto Ebby again, and it's just that Iceborne Gauntlet. It's like, really? Do I have to deal with
it? He's taken negative damage.
Yeah, I just say, just so annoying.
Legit, why are you focusing on the Malphite? Just let Ebby clear at tower. You need to look for a fight somewhere else on the map. This is the problem, right? Actually, AXIZ have a way, potentially, to win this game just by buying up so much time with Malphite.
I wonder whether it's just DFM saying, like, we don't want to fight until next Infernal Drake. We don't want to, like, leave towers alone in case we just get nothing for it.
Sure, but every time you're doing this, you're actually giving a chance for Kai'Sa to get back in the game.
And even in teleport as well.
Even in farmed up a cull when Youthpon didn't, so that is some gold left in the pocket of Day One as well. Even though it has been Youthpon who had a lot of the plates and a lot of the kill participation, Day One is not feeling awful now. It looks like he's not going towards the Nash's Tooth. In fact, he's going to go towards the Hurricane build, try and get a little more of the AD damage coming through, rather than being the more hybrid mage. And what that means is that potentially their damage profile as AXIZ is slightly more even again.
Yes, looking like it's going to be the crit sort of Kai'Sa, as you mentioned.
Yep.
DFM, though, are being much more proactive about setting up vision in this river this time around. Yes, the Skullcrab vision there is there for AXIZ, and that's a relief for them. But it won't be DFM thinking, can we actually face check this Malphite right now, and being too late to the punch.
Yeah, so the thing here is that at least they know that the Infernal
Drake
is going for it.
He finds the Haymaker, but it's only on Facebreaker, rather, onto Hoglet, but that was a good flash out to keep... Well, actually, I don't think it was even a flash, just managed to get away.
Yeah, he flashed. Yeah, Gang flashed out. It was the
Spell Thief's flash, was it?
No. So it was the Lanson. Sorry, I thought you asked me if Gang did flash. Gadeo still has his available.
That's what it was. Okay,
it's going to be a failed engage. Hoglet steals away. No, he doesn't steal away. Steel is the guy that ends up getting that blue buff.
40 seconds-ish until that Infernal Drake. Unyan still shoving on the top side. Ebby, I suspect will have teleport up if I have timed that teleport correctly.
Yeah, Unyan can just keep pushing.
He's going to keep pushing, and Ebby needs to back really swiftly, or it's going to be a serious problem in that top lane. Tower's
you
down
take that
HP.
tower, Unyan. I support you.
My days. I cannot believe this is what I'm seeing. Malphite split push, completely unanswerable, just because he's too damn tanky.
You can't kill him. He doesn't kill towers very quickly, so maybe think, it's just kind of a non-factor. But he will take it eventually with that Iceborne. That's why I think this Iceborne's good this game. It's not necessarily always the best item for tanks in the top and because it's not the best teamfight stats. With Malphite having that, with the Iceborne giving you that slow feel, with the size of your armor though, does end up meaning that you can slow the entire team with your W max.
And let's be fair to AXIZ as saying, well, we're not really winning these team fights. That's Zoe coming back, and now she's in a bit of bother. She's down! She's shut down! I was about to say, well done, AXIZ, for holding on in the mid lane and letting this split push work on. But DFM finally strike. It will be Infernal Soul off to DFM unless Hoglet can find something. But Gang is going to zone off the Volley Bear, and that will be the Infernal Soul going the way of DFM.
Yeah, Saros is just playing goalkeeper. It will be the Infernal Soul. Now it is entirely about the split push from Malphite for the rest of this game. They need to make sure that Unofficial does have that pressure in the side lane. Got to go back to who gave up that kill though. Galliardo, how often is it that it is that guy giving up the one?
They're going to try and do a Baron here.
They're going to go towards the Baron. Onion's not there. He can go for a flank. He's still going in topside though.
Yeah, Ebby's there and can interrupt the teleport there, which would be pretty huge. And the Volley Bear's super low. And now the Cogmore artillery is there. In goes the Kaiser trying to get onto Steel, but not quite. Day One can't get the kill. He's too far behind.
Uonyan?
And Uonyan is over here. Got his teleport interrupted. Now we're seeing him die in the 1v1.
No. He didn't even teleport. There was no interrupt. He died in the top lane. It was Galliardo's teleport that was channeled, and he didn't end up doing anything in that fight. Uonyan leaves his team to do Baron alone, doesn't get the Baron, 3 people die for it, he dies himself, it's another 4 for none, DFM running away with the game.
I guess Uonyan must have taken a lot of turret shots. The turret has fallen in the top lane at least, but that must have been the trade that Ebby used to get the health bar discrepancy.
I don't know why Uonyan didn't move at all. You're not going to kill that tower anytime soon. We're going to go to the replay here. 3 men on Baron. Hoglet is not really that tanky right now, and Saros has the range and the Infernal Soul to dunk him out. That's 2 ults. That's 3 ults, and he is dead to Baron. Corporal lands a good hook, but with Gang coming in, Day One cannot finish off this kill. Uonyan is just still in top lane. And it looks like the ultimate's committed from Wukong there, and just ends up killing him with a double proc of that in the extended trade. We don't get to see that 1v1, but for me, Uonyan has been the shining star of AXIZ up until this point. Been that rock in the top lane, literally, and of course figuratively too. But he ends up giving up a really big opportunity there for AXIZ. Some really massive individual errors from AXIZ this game.
It was a great early game from DFM, good dragon stacking, and then AXIZ managed to stall it out pretty well, and Ebby just didn't have a lot of options versus the Malphite, but DFM found the engage they want, they found the Infernal Soul, they found a Baron at 30 minutes into this game, and they're going to start shoving in. They still have to be aware of Uonyan potentially looking for the flank, but the mid lane turret now falls to Baron minion pressure. Ebby split pushing in the side lane, and Malphite doesn't have great wave clear versus Baron minions.
And now you have to deal with Cogmore with the Graves smoke screening anyone that walks towards him in this siege situation with Baron. You also have an Ezreal there at level 16 with 3.5 items. You know, that's important. That's kind of cool. I don't think they have the stats right now to take a full-on fight. Uonyan's trying to clear top wave, but I don't think he'll be able to do that either.
He won't, and that will be DFM rotating up the top. Cogmore damage starting to come through onto Uonyan, who's still pretty tanky, even if it is to the AP threat. Spirit Visage, still burns down about half HP with the Liandry's. Galliardo hits minions and not champions, and that will be the top lane turret broken. Inhibitor now under siege, and it just disappears. That structure would have blown up less slowly with dynamite being used.
Saros just landing every ult onto Galliardo though, forcing off. This is why you pick this against mages in the late game. You outrange them, you do a lot of stuff. Whoa, they can cancel the backs, They're
trying to, but Hoglet's now taken super low, has to ult out. He's got an ignite down on him. Will not take the collateral damage to the face. Does stop the backs, but it was synced enough that DFM managed to stop as a unit and get out.
So Saros managed to back there, but didn't have teleport. That could have been really, really dangerous, all things said and done. Uonyan finds out Ebby's clone, sees that he is not backed yet, and he's going to go towards his top lane wave clearing duties once more. But this time it feels like it's too little too late. It feels like the straw that broke the camel's back. The stats are there for DFM now. Cogmore's scaled, and there's so much healing in the death stances on the top side of the map from DFM too. I don't see AXIZ win teamfights from this point on.
And with the Trinity Force in now for Ebby as well, I think Malphite has to be a little bit more afraid of this Wukong in the side lane. It won't be a fast kill, but with Death Dance, Black Cleaver, and Trinity Force with all the armor shred he has, it becomes harder for this tank Malphite to win up the way he was doing, I suspect.
For sure.
I suspect. I don't say that with authority.
So, Triforce Black Cleaver onto Ebby just means he has a lot of attack speed. So the more attack speed you have, the more attacks you get, the lower your Q cooldown is. Because every time you or your clone attacks a champion, it ends up reducing cooldowns of that Q, which means you just keep applying that 30% shred. The Black Cleaver comes onto whatever, how much shred it is as well at the end of it. It means that actually, in an extended fight, you get Conqueror going, you do end up doing a lot of damage to this Malphite, particularly when you have the 2-level advantage over him.
Is pretty massive. That's the kill involvement for you. Utapon and Steel stepping forwards. They take a Zoe Q, but she's just a little ways behind at this point.
Heavy trading with Onion and finding very little there.
Oh, but Day One takes a Bio Arcane Barrage to the face and realizes his health bar is now gone. True Shot Barrage.
With the
Breath of the wind
with the Infernal Soul, that probably would have killed, actually, thinking about it. Two Infernal Dragons, given that extra AP, which of course scales up there. And having the extra AD on top of that, which also scales up, that hybrid scaling for the Ezreal, with the Infernal proc on top of it, probably would have killed.
AXIZ now have to look towards a Miracle Elder Dragon Steel, perhaps. That might be their only way back into this game.
If the game extends that long, but potentially, yes, that could be the way they go into it. Because this set, looking to survive on low HP, it's same with the Graves and the Ezreal with their Death Stats as well.
Miserable.
But the Siege is just too much. The range is too much.
Teleport
There's a teleport in, though.
They know it's coming to DFM. It's going to be on Vision. Here we go. This will be Uinyan's chance. He's going to try and go in, but the flash out. That's going to be Kai'Sa coming in. They've got two. That's massive. Now Day One in the backline. And Ebby's not here. He's been slept. He can't fight. Steel trying to stay alive. Flashes over the wall and is alive for now. DFM lose two. And that was a turnaround for now as the Elder Dragon comes up.
And that Day One just missed out on the flash W onto Steel. That would have killed and sealed it for good. We talked about a Miracle Elder Steel. If they take the fight beforehand, that's about as good as it. Utapon tries to flash away from the point blank Malphite ult, but he flashes and Yuanyan didn't even cast it. He goes in, he gets the double knock up onto the carries, and it will be Day One finishing it. There are minions on the base. Flash away there from, wait, who was that flash away from? Oof.
That was...
no, it wasn't. It was just the blood away. Okay, big fight.
We can see Steel here trying to get in and be ready to fight for this. Uinyan over the back trying to get something. Here we go. Steel needs to go in. It's Gang! Gang steals it! That is disaster now! And Steel stays alive. The Elder Dragon Execute comes in. Ebby flashes in and gets a double. And AXIZ, head in your hands. That was your chance. You find the teleport finally. And Gang ruins everything.
Rarely do you see a game which gives you this many chances to succeed in the game. AXIZ throw the ball not once, not twice, but 3 times crucially in this game. They had their chance towards playoffs. That's all but dead. Now say goodbye to AXIZ and playoffs, and DFM is still in the race.
It is. DFM come out with the victory there. It breaks their losing streak. They played it well in the early game. They finally found the break in the mid game. Squeaky butt cheek time later on with the flank from the Malphite. It was always a risk. AXIZ fail the attempted steal from the game there. But to figure out how it actually played out, we're going to go to a swift break and we'll be back with an analyst segment in just a few minutes.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the LJL Officially Unofficial, bringing you coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split Week 6. Gentlemen, we just saw maybe the closest game that we've seen DFM have, especially versus AXIZ, if history continues to come to me. I'm not thinking of a closer game, but there were many ups and downs throughout this one, weren't there, gentlemen?
There were. And, I was quite disparaging on the cast, but there were multiple moments in that game where things came to a head, and it very much could have ended the game in favor of AXIZ. It didn't end up that way,
Did not.
But lots of things to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's first talk about the defining moment, really, in my eyes, for a lot of this game, and that was AXIZ coming along for a 4-0 dive, and, well, it ended up 4-0, but not in AXIZ's favour. As you would expect, if they're diving, you would expect them to get... Oh, no. No, Ebby didn't die, and it all went to pieces, didn't it?
It did, and that was Ebby sitting around under turret thinking, why isn't he backing away? He knows it's coming, he's Wukong, he can get out super easy. But he's like, oh no, I'm a juicy Wukong all under tower, as Gang is powering his way from a reset back up, and they go in, Ebby outplays with a huge cyclone, and AXIZ went super deep, gets stun locked forever. But don't drop the tower aggro early enough with Hoglets. Oh, it's horribly played by AXIZ, and they get caught out by DFM reading them going for the dive.
The thing for me is that the first part of that dive was okay for AXIZ. You get out Ebby's flash, and you get out his ult as well. Okay, that's fine. Cyclone's down. You back off. Gadiodo flashes in. They want ults in. There's a set there. Gang is turned up in time, turns it around, and the two squishy members don't have anyone peeling for them. Ebby turns it around with his Conqueror there. He doesn't die. It's a 4 for none. In a place where it was more about the re-engage on that dive being very badly calculated by AXIZ. They don't even get a single kill, and it gives over what was a strong lane to Eunyan in favor of Ebby for the next couple of minutes, and this Wukong was then kind of another threat to be aware of on the map for DFM.
Yeah, a problem also for me is AXIZ just didn't play their ults, didn't play their abilities together as a unit. They staggered it.
The Volibear not ult cancelling the towers a little bit.
That was very suspect, but also they staggered their abilities, and not in a sense where it's like, oh, we're staggering so we can kite. No, you're diving. You're meant to do it all at once, and the call wasn't there, so DFM had the opportunity, and they took it. However, throughout this game, till we get to our next point, which, in all fairness, is basically at 25 minutes in, 20 minutes later, at 25 minutes in, before we get there is a Malphite problem that does develop. It takes that long till we get to our next talking point, and in all fairness, Eunyan, while he had a winning lane, it doesn't become a problem as side lanes were his thing.
Malphite against 480 champions has the luxury to max
next
W and build completely armor. It's just really hard to just go through it, because Wukong cannot beat that laning phase, even with the gold he was given earlier. Then the question becomes, well, if Wukong hadn't had that gold, how bad would it actually have gotten without those 2 kills and 2 assists going over to the Wukong? But the Malphite was still a problem throughout the game, you're very right.
Yeah, and it's more than that, though. It's that DFM had got 3 dragons, they were on Infernal Soul point. AXIZ critically get the 4th one by rushing it super fast before DFM get vision, which was huge. But also it's the fact that AXIZ basically had this horrible issue. It's like, well, we can't win 5v5 because Wukong's out 5v5ing us right now with the gold lead. And the 3 damage dealers from DFM are eviscerating as Seros had hit all the items and had a big CS lead. So like, okay, well, we need to not die in the mid lane with the 4 and then rely on Malphite for the win condition. And that stalled out things for a while. But it just wasn't enough, and eventually it did kind of break down to a 5v5 where the Malphite just wasn't involved quick enough.
Well, it eventually came down to a point, really, where Gadiodo ended up dying in the mid lane. That secured DFM Dragon Soul as a huge part of their damage had been removed purely by Gadiodo getting just picked off earlier. This in turn did mean that AXIZ were able to take that Baron. Well, AXIZ tried to take that Baron, rather, should I say. Seros and DFM had other thoughts in mind, right?
They did. And Garriero getting picked off was kind of like, okay, so if the Malphite was the win condition for AXIZ, DFM kind of knew, well, we win the 4v4. And they were looking for engages forever. Gang was looking to try and find the engage. And he finally finds it onto Garriero, who overstepped. And Seros throws in a Bioarcane Barrage at that point, and it like half health to Zoe.
I think Ezreal was there too.
And Ezreal was there too, so it's just like, they get the catch, they're now in the 4v5, they can roam over to the dragon, and at the same time, Malphite dives Wukong and dies doing it.
Oh, no, that's when they were on the Baron. That was after.
Oh, was that on the Baron? Sorry.
So Gaudio dies, they take Infernal Soul, and then AXIZ go up towards the Baron. They don't end up moving Malphite over.
They don't.
Saros walks up with the Infernal Soul on the Cogmore, kills off Hogla because he's not tanky on it, and Malphite's not there. The one person who might be able to turn the team fight for them. Then that's pretty much just it. That's both big objectives gone the way of DFM.
Yeah, and through that, they were able to get themselves into a winning spot. It looked like AXIZ had that 5% that the robot will always try and give, whether it's 2%, 5%, it's all negligible at that point. And they did happen to find 2 for 0 and the opportunity at that Elder, but Nymera, that Elder didn't go the way they wanted, did it?
This was maybe the 4th or 3rd of really big moments where AXIZ saw the gap, saw the opportunity. And you now have to take into account everything which happened beforehand. If this Kai'Sa hadn't been put so far behind in the early game because they failed that dive top lane, if they managed to get plates off of that and maybe get kills for themselves, maybe this Kai'Sa is strong enough to finish off some more kills. Maybe if they don't give over the Infernal Soul in those kind of fights as well. Maybe if the Baron hasn't gone that way. Maybe this turns out not from a 2-for-0 and that last tick of damage onto Grace kills him, and you get that Baron for free. It wasn't even the jungler that stole it, though. Gang came in with Set, gets it with something.
Facebreaker.
It was the Facebreaker of all things, to secure it against the Smite, and then, of course, the Elder just ends the game. It was a series of unfortunate events, and it was still so close for AXIZ, so I'm very happy that they managed to draft themselves into a good position, but they really dropped the ball a lot of the time. Of course, it does take a catch on the other side from DFM, and they did force a lot of the errors, but I'm left really kicking myself for AXIZ.
Yeah, and I do want to give some praise over to Gang. Actually, who had a stellar game, and we are super down on AXIZ because there was a few moments like that Malphite ult at the end. It's that's your opportunity. We were so excited for them. But serious praise to Gang, who put Day One and Corporal in the dirt in lane, and the Kai'Sa was already down 10, 15 CS early on to the Ezreal because of the way the lane had gone early on before the dive top. It just had a fantastic game, got the catch onto Gariaru as well. The set from Gang was great, and we have a league of great set support players.
We really do, but with that said, this is going to be the end for DFM's games for today, but not the end for us, as we still do have one more game. Can AXIZ pick themselves up, or are Crest Gaming looking to extend their win rate? Because they're hungry for that second spot for that gauntlet match in the playoffs. We'll find out more after this break.